What is up, my friends? I just got out of Snow White, directed by Mark Webb, starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. This is going to be my out-of-theater reaction as well as my spoiler-free review, even though everybody knows the freaking story of Snow White. Also, I live so close to the theater, you might notice I'm not directly outside of the theater. I decided just to come home because I have a lot of thoughts. You know, Snow White, it's like the iconic Disney princess film. She's the first Disney princess, came out in the 1930s. It's just a highly regarded story, and so hearing that they were remaking it, I got a little bit excited. I mean, all these Disney adaptations, these Disney remakes, I guess I'm not over the moon about any of them, but seeing that they were going to do Snow White, it was exciting. And then as time went on, you know, production wrapped, we started to get some trailers, we started to get some announcements, and then the press tour started, and I started thinking probably what a lot of you were thinking, wow, this is a lot of bad press. If you've made it this far without seeing a lot of that stuff, maybe just hold off and go see this movie and see it blind, see it as unbiased as possible. But unfortunately, I did see where Rachel Zegler was calling Prince Charming a stalker and all of that stuff, and it just, you know, some of it maybe got blown out of proportion, but a lot of it did actually feel a little bit disheartening, just because, again, Snow White is such a famous story. Snow White, the character in general, this princess, she's just like the embodiment of positivity. And when you have an actress who is cast in this role and she's just being so publicly negative about a lot of different things, it definitely casts a shadow on this entire thing. But I really made an effort to go into this thing as objective as possible, as unbiased as possible, to leave all of that at the door and just see what this iteration, this adaptation of Snow White was all about. And I have now seen it, and I thought that it sucked. I really thought this was a bad movie. For the first about 20 minutes of it, I couldn't stop asking myself, why does it look like that? I couldn't help but be one of those Twitter bros that's always complaining about cinematography and complaining about the color grading in different shots in movies. But when you watch this movie and you compare it in your head to something like Wicked, it was just insane how much of a lack of depth there was to just the image that you were looking at on the screen. The color seemed dull, the characters seemed dull, you could see that it was just a set with some CGI behind it. It didn't feel like a lived-in world whatsoever. And then by the time you get to Snow White, you get to this character, you're already kind of feeling strange about this whole thing. At least I was. And then you get to Rachel Zegler. And no offense to Rachel Zegler, honestly, I loved her in West Side Story. That was my introduction to her as an actress, and she blew me away. I actually liked her in Shazam too. And negative press aside and personal stuff aside, I think she's a great actress and she has a great voice. But as I watched this entire film, I tried to see her as Snow White. I tried to see her as this princess that I personally grew up with and that I just loved and always made me feel special, and she really did none of that. I didn't see the positivity coming through her eyes. Because Snow White is supposed to be positive to an absolute fault. That's why she takes the bite of the apple. You know what I mean? Like, you're convinced that Snow White truly can't see anything but positivity, and that's why she's so naive in the end to be like, well, I guess I'll take a bite of this. I'm gonna help this old woman. You know what I mean? That didn't come across for me, and I was really hoping that it was. I was hoping for a better performance, and I think that for this thing to work, you probably needed somebody else cast as Snow White, realistically. As for Gal Gadot, the opposite side of this thing, I'd say that she was fine. I think people might trash on her a little bit more than she maybe deserves. She was having fun with the role. She did her thing. Her song sucked. The song that they gave her was just garbage. But besides that, I thought some of the imagery, you know, obviously, you know, the evil queen, she turns into the old lady. Like, you see that, and we've seen that in the original cartoon, and the way that they did that in this, it was a lot of fun. I did enjoy those moments, some of the darker moments in this, but really it wasn't like Gal Gadot's evil queen performance was the thing that shot this thing through the roof, and I'm like, oh my god, that was actually amazing, you know? Really the only human performance, and I say human because I'm about to dive into some other stuff that I can't wait to talk about, but the only human performance that captured me was Jonathan, who's kind of taking on that love interest, Prince Charming-esque role in this film, and I thought he was great. He really was great. He held it down on this side of things. Some of the stuff with the girl power, like the changing of the song to not like waiting for my love to arrive, but just kind of waiting for whatever, I don't know. I don't know if it rubbed me the wrong way or not. I just thought the music could have been handled a little bit better. There were some of them that we knew. They kept some of them, Whistle While You Work and stuff like that, as well as the dwarf songs, but they also added in these songs that made the guy out to be more of a scoundrel than anything, and made Snow White out to be like tough and in charge. And I don't know, you know, when it comes to stuff like that, and when it comes to making changes to these adaptations, my feeling on it is like, if you're gonna change things around that much, you might as well just make a new movie, because the stuff that we loved the most about the original Snow White, like, I think if you want to go to a live action adaptation of that, you kind of just want to see that stuff. Like, I didn't mind the Prince Charming stuff, because myself as a young man, I was like, man, that'd be so sick to be like a Prince Charming for somebody someday. Like, those are the thoughts that I had as a kid, because it was building me up. I just feel sad for kids these days having these movies made by a machine, and they're so scared to actually have a voice and have a tone that they don't really commit to any sort of a message, and they just play it safe around every single turn. Therefore, the kids aren't learning anything. The kids aren't getting anything. All they're getting is just like a safe, not so great film that felt more like it was made by a machine than Mark Webb. I was actually excited to see what Mark Webb had up his sleeve for this, but I didn't see Mark Webb anywhere in this picture. It all just felt like it was made by committee, and that was a travesty. The worst part of this movie, and this could just be a me thing, other people might see this movie and be like, oh, I actually like the dwarves. The dwarves were terrible. And the reason why I think this could be a me thing is because I was actually frightened by them. There was something about them, whether it wasn't just CGI, it felt Uncanny Valley. It felt like it was AI or something. They looked so realistic, but then just dead inside. It was so weird. They looked like dolls. It was almost Polar Express. I half expected Tom Hanks to pop out in song all of a sudden or something like that. But they were just weird, and they took up so much space in this story, as they do in this story, that it just screwed up the whole thing. I couldn't stop looking at them, but the last thing that I wanted to do was look at them. It was so weird. It just felt like there were so many different cooks in the kitchen with this one, and in the third act, it was glaringly apparent that they were trying to appease like a certain section of the audience by maybe reworking some things, but then the entire first half of the film doesn't really quite feel like the second half, so it's all very convoluted and disjointed. Gal Gadot kind of looks like Kris Jenner as the evil queen. Rachel Zegler just did not feel like Snow White. I don't know. The entire movie was just a big miss for me. As always, I highly encourage you to get out to this movie. I don't want to discourage you from going and seeing it. Go see it, make up your own mind, try to see it as unbiased as possible, because hey, maybe this is going to be your new favorite film. You never know. As for me, I hated it. So that's about all I have to say on Snow White. As always, I'm going to give my Jones Vibe star rating, and my friends, I'm giving Snow White 2025 1.5 out of 5 stars. Didn't work for me, and I got no doubt about that. But be sure to leave all your comments down below. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, but more than anything, keep up the good vibes, my friends. I'll see you next time. Peace!